Welcome to the Octopod. I'm Kyle Davis, head of the Office of the CTO. Join us as we dive into the latest technologies and trends shaping business. Whether you're a tech enthusiast, a business leader, or just looking to stay ahead in the digital age, this podcast is for you. Let's unlock opportunities with technology together. Let's jump in.
Hi, this is Tim. I'm your host today, and I'm here with Simon Townsend from ControlUp. Simon, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. First of all, thanks very much for having me on. My name is Simon Townsend. I'm the field CTO for ControlUp. And we're here today at IGEL Disrupt, which is interesting for me because, as you know, I came from IGEL and I spent 5 years at IGEL helping run this event. And so it's quite nice to be here as an attendee and a sponsor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You kind of get to see it from the, I'd say the less working side, but I think you work harder from the other side of the fence. So we're here in Munich at the IGEL event, as you said. There's a load of sponsors here. Now, obviously, at CDW, we do some work and we're looking to ramp up that work with ControlUp. Do you want to just highlight how ControlUp and IGEL work together and why that makes a difference and how CDW takes that to market?
Yeah, sure. So obviously, as you know, ControlUp is a digital employee experience platform, a DEX platform, as the market now calls it. Gartner, funnily enough, just last week came up with the Magic Quadrant for DEX, which they've put us in a leader. And so we monitor, measure, remediate employee experience across a whole host of different platforms, VDI, physical workspaces, Windows, Mac, Linux, and also obviously IGEL. And I think where that is important is if you look at the way the world is going at the moment and organizations who are looking at providing a more robust digital workspace, they're looking at things like IGEL, read-only, Linux, secure operating system that can be used to repurpose existing devices and save money and have a good impact from a sustainability point of view, but people still need to be able to monitor those and measure employee experience in those environments. And so, both IGEL and ControlUp do a lot of work together to ensure that from the moment you switch on a device, whatever device that might be, that it's secure and it's performing. And then regardless of whether you're accessing SaaS-based applications or traditional VDI, desktop as a service type applications, they are performing to the best of their ability. And so we work with you guys in a number of different accounts and a number of different projects, really to help organizations get the most value from the solutions that they are deploying. It's very easy to spin up a desktop in the cloud. It's very easy to convert a PC to an IGEL device, and it's very easy to deploy ControlUp. But I think where you guys come in is the additional value post-implementation that you offer in terms of making sure that a business gets the most value from those solutions, that they've considered all of the options along the way, but also that, particularly from a DEX point of view, you can start to look at, real-time measurement, but also how do you do remediation and automate some of that to actually start to save money, reduce cost.
You're right. I think a lot of businesses, and correct me if you see it otherwise, they go out for point solutions and fail to take it up to the 40,000 foot and buy technology on top of technology, when quite often they're overlapping parts of something are there, and then they carry on paying for a license for something they may no longer need.
Correct.
And I think there's a big ask for businesses to move up that stack. But for me, digital employee experience, it sounds like an IT role, but I always think it's a little bit further than that, because it's HR want to know, if I can't see my employees. We've had the last couple of years, we've had the buzzwords of hybrid work, we've had AI.
Yeah.
And we've had this realization that we can't always see our employees or understand how they're experiencing life. Now, I grew up in a period where uptime was defined by, can I ping the server? Therefore, it must be your problem, not the server, because I can ping the server. And we've moved very much into a period where the server may be up, but the experience may still be subpar. Yeah. And my view is that we're now focusing on those people we can't always see, those working remotely, those working in a place that we don't understand, and we can change not just their digital employee experience, but their employee experience, from, as you said, from the first point they get a device, from their onboarding, from application delivery.
Yeah.
My understanding is we can quantify a user's experience, not just by ping time and latency, but by saying application response time. And the story I always use is how many times have you opened up a web page and then submitted some detail and clicked the OK button 3 times and then got frustrated with the fact that it hadn't submitted and then it did and then said you can't. And my understanding is that ControlUp very much looks at this, can not only report on it, which is amazing because we can look retrospectively and say, somebody had a bad experience, but there's a level of capability built in to this platform that can look at advising a user and saying you're having a poor experience because your Wi-Fi is terrible, or you're running 15 million application windows in the background that don't need to be open. Now, do you want to build out on that, and how does it actually impact on the daily life of a user?
So I think you bring up 3 things that we should probably talk about. I think first of all, you brought up user sentiment, and that is a massive part of a digital employee experience platform, and important to anyone that's looking at monitoring digital employee experience. We have a number of customers, but one in particular I can think of, rather large, admittedly, about 35, 40,000 seats in the finance space. And to your point, HR has now got involved and is actually helping fund the digital employee experience project for the simple reason that they want to make sure and survey employee well-being. And make sure that their employees' experience is a good one. Whether that's an NPS survey, whether that is feedback based on an application migration that's happened or a Windows 11 migration that's just happened, getting that employee feedback is super, super important. And from an IT point of view, it's really interesting because it's all very well being able to see what happened to the device, what happens to the application. But if you've then got an additional layer from the user of an indication that something just went wrong. And it might just be, clicking a button saying, yes, I just had have a problem in Teams. I'm not going to raise a support ticket because that takes me 15 minutes. I just want to click a button and just go, I confirm that I just had an issue. If you can pull that together and marry that data up, connect the dots, that then gives IT a much better way of understanding when did the problem exist and marrying up exactly at that moment in time what could have been the issue, looking to remediate it, but also looking at proactively remediating it should it happen. So I think user sentiment's super important. The other thing you mentioned, hybrid work from anywhere. The big challenge there is, let's be honest, we've gone from 250 people sat in an office to 250 people sat in 250 different offices. And
unmanaged infrastructure and everything else that goes through that.
Right. And my Wi-Fi is not the same as your Wi-Fi. In fact, my internet connection at home is superb. It's about 750 megabits per second, right? But my Wi-Fi is absolutely terrible. Depending on where I sit in the house. I mean, I just, if I'm not hardwired in, it's terrible. So I think being able to see those challenges is important. Having observability and visibility over those remote workspaces is very, very important. And because we've got that hybrid way of working, we are now accessing a more hybrid infrastructure as well. We're no longer just doing BDI and desktop as a service or laptops. We tend to be doing, we've got some PCs and we've got some VDI. We might have spun up some desktop as a service. We're trying to move a load of our applications to SaaS. We've got unified comms. I mean, Tim, you know, right? You go into a company and you say, what unified comms? It's a stupid question to ask, really. What unified comms tools do you use? All of them? Like, everyone tries to standardize on one, but they typically have got customers that need them to use others. Anyway, so the list goes on. So there's a real reason to look at that from a hybrid point of view. And then, the final bit of your question is how do we sort of start to relate all of that? And, an easy way of looking at it is to say, okay, well, you need to be able to monitor things at a device level, a networking level, an operating system level. To your point earlier, you need to look at what's going on with applications. Then you bring user sentiment in. In our particular case, we're now bringing security into that piece as well, monitoring device posture and vulnerabilities, etc. But all of it all bubbles up ultimately to a score. And I don't know whether you want to call it a DEX score or an employee experience score, but we need a way of being able to sit back at a 40,000-foot view, as you said, and say, is my employee experience across all of my employees going down and to the right? Is it flatline, or is it, is it going up and to the right? And if it's starting to go down and to the right, we need to very, very quickly understand why that is.
It leads me on to two things. The first one I'm going to say, and you hinted at it there, is I've been in IT for a long time to say, the stakeholders have changed. IT departments are becoming more of a lights-on department and not a definer of technology per se. Your hardware now becomes a choice to a degree for some users, but then the flexibility of applications. We walk around with mobile phones. What is it, 2.4 mobile phones per person on the planet? It's insane. But anyone who's got a mobile phone, unless they're stocked with a Nokia 3110, can pretty much open it and Play Store or Google Store, install the app they need and do whatever they need to. Now, I'm seeing people in the laptop enterprise world, they're expecting that same level of simple consumption, but businesses need to manage and get on top of it. And you said about security, but that has stepped outside of the IT conversation. So now your future employee is looking at you as a business as well. How do you approach technology? Is it invested in me or is it invested in you? And I think where I'm going with this is the HR angle. They are interested in employee well-being. How do we attract the right talent and how do we protect that talent when they're on board? The COO who's saying, I've got these offices that are empty. And it's funny you said about, my wife was terrible, but my network's really quick. We've got people that came back from the pandemic and realized that their network in the office was slower than their network at home. And we've heard these stories and it was like, yeah, you're right. It's insane.
Yeah.
So we've got the COO, we've got the CHRO, but then we've also got, and this is the one that I find really interesting, the ESG now involved in the conversation, because a lot of businesses go for a 3-year device refresh, or they used to, a 3 or a 5. They would look at the device and say, well, it's out of warranty, let's refresh it.
Yeah.
But so far as I'm understanding, a DEX platform can now tell you, actually, this device is still more than capable of supporting our business applications. There is no need to replace that device.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, it can also tell you when you need to replace that device, or maybe move it to another persona in your organization, which keeps the ESG impact down.
Yeah.
Would you say those are the same things you're seeing in the business?
I would say the same thing I'm seeing. And I think there has been a tendency for IT to include the management of the endpoint for as long as I can remember. And we all know why you need to have a well-managed endpoint that needs to be secure, etc. But let's be honest, if IT could get rid of that and just worry about providing access to applications and data, and therefore providing the services, whether that's monitoring a SaaS-based application and the SaaS-based application, or delivering a 10, 20 Windows-based applications via BDI, you sort of start to not necessarily have to worry about that endpoint anyway there as much. And you raise an interesting point, right? We're all walking around with mobile phones that are more powerful than most of the PCs that we've got. And they've all now got USB-C connections. Most people have got a dock on in their environment. Most people have got unified communications installed on both their desktop and their mobile device. I mean, are we not at a point where actually this smartphone that I have on my being can also be the device that then powers my 16, 17-inch monitor with a mouse and keyboard and allows me to access the same services just in a slightly different way? And when you get to that point, I know it's a little bit out there maybe right now for many, but you get to that point and actually the management and security of that endpoint is significantly less by the sheer nature of doing it. People that roll out Intune to manage Android devices and iOS devices, as an example, they don't pay people to sit there day in, day out managing those devices. No. They just, you enroll them and they're managed by the sheer nature.
It's far simpler than the let's call it the thick client, the big desktops. And especially I think Android's really interesting in where they're developing the dual operating or the split operating system. You have a personal and a work profile. We were just talking about this upstairs. You actually simplify the management by saying, well, what you do on that side is your problem, and what you do on this side is our problem, and we control and manage that one. That split device. I started using the phrase less is more, but it's not that your users have less capability, less power. What they actually have is they have more, as in they go into a virtual environment, they have a marketplace for consumer application, but what they physically carry with them is less. It gives them an infinite more flexibility. I'd love not to have to carry a laptop all the time with my rucksack. I love the idea that I can flip it open and do my job. But this idea of taking us into this controlled, reliable experience from a thin client or a mobile phone client, I think is massive game changing. But look, I'm just wary of the time, but I really appreciate if you were going to close up, what do you think is going to be maybe the next big thing that we're going to see in the next couple of years?
Oh, the next big thing. I think desktop virtualization has historically made up, 10, 15, 20% of the overall desktop market. I think we're going to see those that are currently deploying on-prem VDI are probably going to stay there for the next 2-3 years. I think we're going to see an increase of desktop as a service, things like cloud PCs and stuff. Obviously, we've got to get through the Windows 11 migration in the next 18 months. But I do think as a whole, IT organizations need to start thinking about, the services, the applications and the data, and how they can ensure that, you've basically got heterogeneous access to them, right? I mean, we've got to try and move towards a world where the endpoint is less of a burden on IT. What do I think is going to be big? That is an interesting question. I'm not sure I can answer that because, it would be very easy to say that AI might play a part in that. But I'm sat here thinking, how do I actually improve productivity and become more proactive in IT than being simply, reactive to what's going on? And
I think you're right. Is that flip round to proactive, preventative, and giving a reliable experience to the end users?
Correct.
Now, with that, Simon, I want to thank you for your time. I think maybe we'll have another podcast another day where we touch on AI because it's a hot buzzword. But for today, thank you for your time.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Be sure to check out the back catalogue for more great insights. Don't forget to subscribe via your favourite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. We appreciate your support. And if you have a topic you want us to cover, feel free to reach out. Catch you next time.